You're listening to Redesigning Reality with Dylan Charles and Jeff Anthony.
We should do an internet comments from our we should do a show where we read all of our comments and comment on the comments.
I pitched that to my wife and she was like, no, fuck that. You don't want to do that. It's too negative. I was like, maybe so. We'll keep it on the up and up because this is redesigning reality. We take all that negative stuff and we put it in a big mixing bowl and whip it up and turn it into good batter and then put that in the oven and cook it into good cookies or something like that. Pot cookies. I don't know. Is that really where we're starting at? Is that where we're at?
The batter that matters.
The batter that matters. This is Redesigning Reality, the podcast. I am Dylan Charles, hanging out in the studio today with the one, the only, Jeff Anthony. What's up, Jeff?
Doing good. Here we are, episode 21. On and on it goes. Pretty awesome.
It's huge. Huge.
Look at the size of my hands.
Yeah. The size of my microphone. It's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm in recovery still. I had surgery last Friday to put my collarbone back together. And so it's been just over 2 weeks since I broke my collarbone. So I've been kind of hanging out, taking it real easy. Spending most of the time just lounging around in bed. It's been kind of nice. I mean,
yeah.
Looking at it from the positive side, it's kind of nice.
Relatively speaking, that's good. A positive spin. For all the trolls out there, you should show a picture of your X-ray. For all the trolls that are like, oh, I bet you that guy barely broke his collarbone. I know you got one of those laying around somewhere.
Here's the picture of the. That's the plate with the screws in it.
Whoa. Oh, nice! I hadn't seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I look like a Lego set.
Yeah, dude, they got you screwed. They screwed you, bro.
Dude, I already have so much fun at TSA security. It's gonna be so much more fun when I actually have metal inside my body.
Believe me, it is. Let me tell you.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, it's the best.
The last time I went through security, I think I told you about this, but this just cracks me up. The last time I got through security, like they totally harassed the guy in front of me, just made a big deal out of it, pulled him aside, and it was shitty. And then it's my turn, so I walked through the thing and did the whole, I'm a slave, hands up, don't shoot, I guess is what we call it. And then the guy, he pulls on those surgical gloves, and he reaches in through my legs, and he's like, I'm like, whoa, and he's like, I'm going for it, getting right in that fucking nutsack, and he so he's literally he's like jabbing his hands into my spot. And he says, do you have any sensitive areas? I go, yeah, my nuts.
They asked me the same thing, dude. They're about to pat. They're like, hey, we're going to pat you down in the front. We're going to use the back of our hands. Let me know if you have any sensitive areas. I was like, I have a few sensitive areas. How many times are you going to be rubbing across the front of my crotch with the back of your hands?
But that's the thing. He goes, I was like, yeah, my nuts. No, it's not. It's not funny to those guys.
No, they don't.
He's like, he freezes and he's like he's got this look like, what the fuck did you just say to me? And I'm like, no, it's cool, man. I'm good. I'm feeling good. And he's like, oh, all right. And he gets his rocks off or whatever. And I went on my merry way. But the moral of the story is, it's a lot of fun to say shit like that to TSA.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I actually made the guy, the supervisor guy was laughing. The guy who was, giving me the rub down, he didn't find the humor in it, but his supervisor did. He had a big old smirk on his face. So,
yeah, I was writing some articles last week. I wrote this article about this show that came on Netflix called The Push, and it's this this illusionist, this mastermind, NLP, neurolinguistic programmer type, magician type dude named Darren Brown, I guess is his name. And I've seen him do some pretty crazy stuff where he sits down with people and gets them to want things that they didn't know they wanted. hey, come sit down with me. And next thing you know, that person's like, yeah, I really want a red bicycle. And he's like talking to him and
I've seen that guy.
NLP talk and stuff. And but the show is about, they stage this whole elaborate. It's kind of theatrical. It's actually kind of cheesy in a way, but they stage this whole theatrical thing where they get somebody to agree and to like sign up and like sign on to like these little small agreements along the way over the course of an hour during this whole staged presentation and a fundraiser and stuff. And then this whole elaborate thing where like the main speaker at this fundraiser has a heart attack and like, he fakes death, and I just watch it. It's on Netflix. But the point of it all is that at the very end of it, they try to convince this guy to just push this dude off a building and kill him. And it's pretty funny because you see in this it's kind of like a documentary. You see, it's more like a reality TV show, but you see that progression of how people like, really don't have any control over their own behavior, and they give away their authority in small bits and pieces, and until they get themselves in some kind of stressful jam, or they get themselves caught in some pack of lies, and they realize that the only way out is to basically violate their own moral code, possibly even kill people. We're just robots, man.
Until you said the possibly kill people part, I was like, oh, so it's like being a 7-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it kind of builds on like there was an experiment in the 60s called the Milgram experiment with this dude, psychologist Stanley Milgram. And he set up this whole thing where he got basically actors in lab coats. And by virtue of them wearing lab coats, they appeared as an authority figure to the subjects in this experiment. So the subjects would come in and they would sit down at this little like voltage meter booth, and they had a radio communication with somebody in another room, and they would ask him questions, and if the person answered the question wrong, they would issue a shock to him. And then after every one, they would turn it up higher and higher and higher until they actually thought they were shocking this person. And then they actually thought that they were delivering a shock that could, seriously hurt or even kill them, once it ratcheted up, higher and higher each round. And the only thing making these people continue doing what they're doing was the guy with the white lab coat was like, come on, keep going. Don't stop. Shock that motherfucker. Don't stop there. No, this is the experiment. You have to follow through. And they're like, but I don't really want to shock this guy. It sounds like he's really in pain. They're like, just do it. Come on. And zap. So what does that tell you?
I've seen something about this study.
Yeah, but that one's pretty famous. I mean, it's one of those. I think the Milgram experiment was based on Stanley Milgram's observations of what happened during the Holocaust and in World War II, and he was trying to figure out why so many like Nazi commanders would so willingly, load the people up onto the trains, et cetera, et cetera. Right,
because they, the whole idea was for them to make them see the Jews as like rats, like you're just extinguishing something that's the scourge of the earth and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy how your mind can be manipulated into belief systems. And isn't that what redesigning reality is all about? That we're here to help you kind of get over your belief systems and realize that you can change the way you think about things and change the way you view your reality, kind of thing.
It's about greater awareness, and the value of looking at something like the Milgram experiment, or even watching the show The Push, is the realization that there's certain things that we all really kind of share in common. And with the Milgram experiment especially, it was about how people defer responsibility onto others. And so if somebody can come in and be like, yeah, I'll take responsibility for this. You just do the shooting, or you just do the dirty work. You're just following orders. I'm taking responsibility. It's all me. You guys go ahead and dig the trenches, or do the dirty stuff. But it has to do with it has to do with like stress and how people react when they're absolved of responsibility for their actions. It's kind of scary, really.
Sounds like politicians, it's kick the can and absolve yourself from all responsibility for the decisions that you made or the bills that you voted for or against. And, it's like the one right now, there's this thing going on where I don't even want to talk about it.
Don't
actually.
talk about it. If it's politics,
Never
don't
mind.
talk about it. There's so many people talking about politics. There's so many conversations.
I'm tired
happening.
of it. I don't even want to talk about it.
I was thinking about that. Like, what if we were to plan this show out? Plan a show. We would plan it and talk about politics. And I was like, no, man, there's so many people talking about politics and conspiracy and stuff. And while that stuff can be interesting, there's just other conversations that need to be had. Regarding this show, The Push, though, ultimately, you know, and I wonder about this because it did have like the Milgram experiment. You can watch a documentary on that experiment. It's pretty fascinating because it has it feels like a scientific experiment. A lot of people say it was skewed towards the author's biases or whatever, but you could see the study as it takes place. It's pretty interesting. But with The Push, though, it has this sort of like phony reality show kind of presentation in it.
Right.
You know, so like each time the subject is asked to make a decision, you know, like for example, they're in the back preparing snacks, hors d'oeuvres for this banquet, and the lady comes in and is like, holy shit, the vegan snacks didn't come in, and so this guy who's kind of like the boss, he's like, oh, here, just put half of the meat ones over there and put the vegan flags in them. And the guy's like, really? Am I really going to trick people into eating meat? And the guy's like, it doesn't matter, just do it. And so when the guy actually does that, when he's like, all right, fuck it, I'll do this. You know, he's signing up more and more. He's subscribing more and more to the you know, giving away his responsibility to this other authority type figure. And so in the end, 3 out of, I guess, 4 people that they did the experiment with went on to push this poor sucker off the roof of a building. So right. I don't know. It's kind of got this weird, like, the authenticity of it's kind of questionable because it has the air of a reality show. But I mean, you could see how people act this way in regular life. I mean, get an office job or go to like the DMV and see how people, you know, act towards other people when they're in a situation of even like mild authoritarianism, you know, and the state is really good about bringing out that quality in people, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, this is very true. And, you know, that's something that I've observed. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how to put it, but, you know, I was in the military. I did that thing, and then I worked for the post office, and that was another form of hierarchy and people with a little tiny bit of control acting like they had major control. And it's always funny to me how that kind of skews people's personalities and kind of gives them this authoritarian Napoleonic complex where they feel like they can tell you what to do and kind of bark at you and stuff. And I've always been like the kind of buck the system guy a little bit. I'm sure that's hard to imagine, but I've never kind of blindly put my opinion or my welfare in the hands of other people as far as making my own decisions goes. And it has served me well. It made me get out of the military, got out of the post office, and pursued other dreams and things that I had that I wouldn't have done if I had not realized, you know, I don't really like these people's attitudes and them trying to constantly tell me what to do. And I'm not talking about my boss. I'm talking about like other employees because they've been there longer. And you're like, hey, yo, dude, you have the same job as me? Like, go over there and, I don't know, shut the fuck up and do your job and let me do mine. So
they have this new mental disorder now. What is it called, man? Tell me. I'm running a blank here. It's called Oppositional Defiance Disorder or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? They pin this label on kids now at school and stuff, you know, and kids are basically, you know, like the rebel kids, like there's always been when they act up and they, you know, defy.
Oh yeah, you gotta have there's gotta be a syndrome or you know, it's some sickness in your brain because you have a personality and you have you have an opinion about something. You can't have an opinion about anything. Something's fucking chemically imbalanced in this child. It doesn't just sit there and fucking do work like a robot.
But I think, you know, we're to a large degree we're kind of like hive creatures, and while like the American culture especially is founded on this sort of sense of rugged individuality, but I think that's a slippery slope. That's easily like lost in like the consumer culture that we have now. And so people tend to look to others to kind of get cues about how to behave and how to act. So that's why it's important. That's why it's important to wake people the fuck up about all this kind of stuff. Make them realize that, okay, there is something warped in human nature that'll carry you all the way into killing somebody else at the behest of an authority figure. So pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening. You know, pay attention and understand and pay attention to your own sovereignty, right?
Well, and don't have that stupid hive mind freaking. I just call it cattle, man. Like I go, you know how many places I go to, and because I have to use a wheelchair to access places, I observe people that are queuing up. Like, hey, I'm going to queue up in this line over here, and I'm like, why are so many people queued up over here when there's all these other places that are open? You know, grocery stores, Target, department store. Those are all great examples. I'm like, why do people just get in line? Is it because they're Well, half the time it's because they're staring at their phones and texting people anyway. They're not totally really paying attention.
Yeah,
otherwise,
I mean, that example is pretty common. I think even in this show, The Push, the host, this magician, illusionist guy, he talks about that at the very beginning, about how you'll go to a supermarket, you'll go to the movies, and for some reason people just pile in the line. I see that all the time driving around town. There's you know 2 or 3 lanes at
Traffic.
a stoplight, and then there's 14 cars in one lane and 1 car in the other lane. So you get into the car with all the lanes thinking, oh, well, surely this is where I'm supposed to go because that's where everybody else is going.
Not me, dude. I'm always like, I'm the dude that's like, I'm sliding up to the front over here. Like, what are these people doing all 14 cars back? You're not going to make the light.
Well, that makes sense, man, because you clearly have oppositional defiance disorder, whatever it is.
I do. I've got that times 2. I've got double strength. But it's true, dude. You go to the DMV and people, I don't know. I've gone to places. Okay, for example, they have the little ticket thing, right? You got to pull a ticket. And from living in Costa Rica for so long, I'm used to like, hey, you got to pull the ticket. And I've gone to places here, dude, where people didn't pull the ticket and they just went in and sat down because everybody else is sitting down. And then they call your number and you get up and they're like, yo, I was in front of you. And I was like, well, do you have a ticket? They're like, fuck, you got to get a ticket? And I'm like, well, yeah, get off your fucking phone and pay attention. It said right there. Pull a ticket, blah, 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 you know? Like, dude, people are funny, bro.
Dude,
and then you've seen the study, too, where they've done they have a hidden camera, you know, and they're in a doctor's office or a dental office or something, and everybody's sitting down, and the new person walks in. All the other people are in on it, but somebody walks into the office, and everybody just stands up, and the person's sitting there, and they're looking around for a minute, and what do? Inevitably, they stand up.
Yeah.
And they don't know why they're standing up, and they're like, okay, I'm standing up. And then everybody sits down, and they're still standing up, and then they look, and they're like, okay, I guess we're sitting down. And it's that hive mind that, the kind of herd mentality of, oh, I got to do this thing. And it's sad, dude, because that's what culture, if you could call it that, that's what culture relies on.
That's some sort of embedded human behavior. That show, The Push, they did that too when they were screening applicants for this thing. The first thing they did was they had the people walk into a room where they had like 2 or 3 people who were in on it, and every time the guy dung a bell, this sort of Pavlovian ding bell,
yeah, right.
They would get up or stand, they would stand up or sit down, and so the new person would come in and literally be like, "What the fuck, man? There's a bell going off. I'm up, down. All right, I'll just up, down, up, down, up, down." And so the people that actually were like, yeah, fuck that, I'm going to sit down, and didn't do it, they were escorted out. They were like, all right, cool, you're clearly not the people that we want for this show.
Right.
We want somebody who's going to commit murder.
Those would be the people, if I had a business, those would be the people I would hire, right? Like, that would be a great way of doing, like, an interview.
Depends on what you do.
Situational stuff, and well, yes, I mean, granted, in certain situations you want people that can follow instructions. I understand that. But at the same time, dude, there's something very inspiring. There's this there's an electricity there. There's a juice there, dude, behind the people that are a little bit defiant, and they're a little bit hard to wrangle in because I don't know, dude. They seem to give they have this spark and they give more effort and they're more creative, and maybe they're going to come up with a way to, to evolve your company or evolve your business. And if everybody's always thinking of the same idea all the time because they all have this kind of herd mentality, then how do you progress? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people can't handle that, though.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of takes one to know one kind of thing, I guess. I've never really liked order takers. And that's why, I mean, I figured out really quick. I did well in the military. Don't get me wrong, because I figured out, hey, I don't want to be bucking the system here. This is a long it's gonna be a long 4 years if you're a freaking asshole. But at the same time, I figured out real quick I don't want to be here longer than 4 years, because this is not for me. So I don't know. But at the same time, I've worked with a lot of people. And I mean, I'm fucking working with you, dude. Look at that. You're not a good order taker. And
No.
People like to say that you have all these things. And, if you can't sit still, if you're looking out the window or you're daydreaming, doing all those things that you should do as a child, and you have attention deficit disorder. And I mean, dude, they just keep making up bullshit, dude, to try to pigeonhole people, right? They gotta have a pill for it or some kind of freaking stupid solution, they think,
Yeah,
hey, your kid's having trouble paying attention, let's put them on speed.
I was watching this interesting presentation by this African shaman. What's his name? Malidoma Patrice Sommet. And he talks about answering the healer's call. He's the guy that talked about what a shaman sees in a mental hospital. So, like, for him and his culture, he's from Burkina Faso in Africa. From him and his culture, the Dagara people, I think is what they're called. When people start going crazy, when people start to exhibit these like mental distresses and that sort of thing, their culture considers it like a calling from the spiritual world. Yeah, it's I mean, it's the induction into the gift. Like the gift has to be discovered, but it's the calling. Like when the crazy part of it is the calling, and he equates it to actually like the phone is ringing, and so you basically have two energies working into the same vessel. You have like the material energy, the day-to-day energy that people use to carry on about, but then there's some disruption in that energy from spiritual energy, whether it's from their ancestral past or whatever it is. And so once that person senses and feels this disruption, then the other elders and other healers in the tribe recognize that, oh, this person's having the call. So now we can help that person to through this challenging time in their life and help them to ultimately understand what gift it is that they have to share with the rest of the tribe, like what their specialty in healing is going to be. Yeah,
right.
Just a different way of looking at life, And you have now, what is it? I think it's the DLA manual. I've written about it so many times, but the psychiatric diagnostic manual. It's like DLA number 5 they're on now, but it's literally there's like 300 something different disorders, and every few years they redo it and they add more disorders to it. And like I was saying, like the oppositional defiance disorder is like one of the newer ones. But all these conditions, all these distresses and stressors and concerning situations that people find themselves in mentally and psychologically end up being categorized and cataloged in this book of disorders, and then that gets disseminated out to the psychiatric field, and psychology picks up on that, and then you go to your doctor, and your doctor is like, man, you've seen Idiocracy when he goes to the hospital. Oh, yeah. And he's like, something's wrong with me, and she's looking around, and she's like, was it his butt? No. Is it his elbow? Is there a baby coming out? Like one size fits all. Let's find like, bam, okay.
Well, as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking if you analyze any individual long enough, you could pick them apart and find something to say that they have, or some kind of disorder or some kind of syndrome or something, dude. And that's what I think has happened in the medical science, and science is, there's so many different facets to it now, and there's so many different people want, well, there's all kinds of levels. There's a hierarchy level where people want to have this thing that's named after them that they discovered that nobody else has discovered, which is ridiculous, right? And they could call it whatever, Anthony-itis or whatever, I don't know. And then there's the, like I said, there's the observational, man, well, we've already labeled all these things and we got to find something else to look at and figure out. And, kids and people, even when they're grown-ups, they have opposition to things. So we better look at that, what that's about. Heaven forbid you maybe just don't like something or disagree with someone's opinion about something. So to me, it's become very clouded and convoluted because you can look at anything long enough and tear it apart. I mean, look at the trolls on Twitter. That's all they do. And are you supposed to take that as the news or relevant? The
way things are trending right now, things are definitely not trending towards individualism. It's kind of fucked up, man. I mean, I'm almost 42, so I've been around for a little bit, and things have changed a lot in the last 20 years. And now I see this whole the social justice movements, the Me Too movements, and all this stuff, and whatever the fuck you want to say about them, good, bad, or whatever. People are up to some crazy shit. Like I saw a woman on the news the other day wanted to ban the word man. Like,
nice.
It was a guy. There's a guy I read about today. He was kicked out of college, or his college lecture class, kicked out of a class for telling the professor that there's only two genders. I guess. So we're in this kind of weird hive mind group thing, and it's just the pendulum swinging back and forth like it always does. We're moving in the direction of this sort of collective identity, man, and it's probably not healthy. A bunch of people are probably going to die, but it's just the way it is.
A bunch of people are always dying, I guess.
Yeah,
but as far as all that goes, it is, and it's irrelevant. All the stuff that's going on right now. Just do your thing, man. You do you, I'll do me. Do your life. Do we really need to? Does it matter how many genders there are? I mean, I agree with the guy. There's two. Even if you decide that you're homo, hetero, whatever it is, you're still there's only two genders. There's only, it only comes out that one way or the other, even if you decide
slippery slope, bro.
True, I know. So I'm not, touching on that too much, but there's it's all ridiculous anyway. I keep waiting for the point where people realize that we're all just people. We're all just humans, and not everybody's going to agree. And that's fine too. That's what's made. Think about this: two of the greatest car companies, two of the greatest, most high performance, cool cars, right? Ferrari and Lamborghini are where they're at because Lamborghini, right, was a tractor maker in Italy, and he bought a Ferrari because he became wealthy as a tractor maker. And he went to Enzo Ferrari and said, you should do this and that, and you could make your cars even better if you did whatever these things that I'm suggesting. And Enzo Ferrari told him to get bent, dude. Was like, whatever, dude. Why don't you go make some tractors and shut up? So, he went about making sports cars. And some of the first ones, like the Miura and all these things became, and the GT 400, GT 450, all those cars became iconic cars. And now people, dude, it's one or the other. People love one or the other or both. And it all happened because two guys a long time ago disagreed with what a sports car was. And now there's two different amazing sports cars out there, right? So that's where I'm with it. Is if you don't like the way somebody barbecues, go barbecue your way and do it yourself. Do that thing and take it upon yourself to learn it. And that's growth, and that's evolution, man. That's we now have amazing technology in all kinds of cars because Ferrari and Lamborghini and Ford and all those guys, came up with all these new concepts and new things, and it's only made the driving experience better. And now they're going on to the, now tech companies like Google want to make cars, and they're going to drive themselves and be automated, and on it goes. And it's funny though, dude, all of a sudden all the things that I thought were going to be around when I was a kid, like flying cars and drone cars and all this stuff. Like now they're going to, now the new thing at the technology convention in Vegas, the CES, now the thing is they're going to have Uber is trying to come out with these like, like drones, like little flying. You just get in and order a ride and go on the top of this building and get flown across town or to the next town, and like a taxi, like a drone taxi. So anyway, the point in all that is it's always because somebody thinks there's a better way or there's a different way. And why do we have to leave it up to corporations or the government to tell us what is good or bad or what we should or shouldn't be doing? To me, it's the people that have that. I can't remember your name, your scientific name for the syndrome, but I
think it's oppositional defiance disorder.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's it. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm sure if I look it up, I'll read the description in the DLA, and then I can go around town and I could be like, okay, that guy's
he's got
ODD. Okay, that guy's got some serious fucking ODD. Oh, that guy's got ODD. I'm pretty sure I could find a few.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then you could, start a company and hire him for something.
What would the ODD guys... You down with ODD? Yeah, you know me.
Demolition.
Demolition. I used to do that when I was a kid. Good times.
Right?
Yeah.
We should tear this building down. I think we should do it that way. No, I'm going to do it this way. Well, I don't give a fuck as long as it's demolished.
Demolished. Yeah, so I'm hanging here today, man. I've been laid out for like 2 weeks now with this broken collarbone. Had surgery, like I said, last Friday, and so I'm at the very tail end of the pain meds. It's like the pain's manageable. I got this huge, like, it's almost like 5 inches long freaking slice in my collarbone here. I could, like, I showed you that metal plate with the screws in it. I can feel, whenever the pain meds wear off real good, I can feel the metal in there, and I could feel like the tissue around, trying to figure out like what's this inside?
What do we do with this?
What do we do? Like the whole shoulder, everything is like this crazy numb, just really numb. So I'm moving off of the opioids onto the all natural stuff, man. Got me some high quality CBD oils, dude. I interviewed a doctor last week. We talked about CBDs, man, fascinating stuff. Like, he told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Like, CBDs are really, by the way, CBDs, cannabinoids. Cannabis, they make these extracts out of hemp plants, and you can buy all this medicine. It's got all these great benefits. But we were talking about a lot of this stuff and how it regulates, like, things like your mood. It can help regulate your mood, your eating, behavior, all sorts of stuff. So there's a whole, like, mental health dynamic to CBDs that I'm really fascinated in right now. I'm going to do some homework on that. CBDs. So yeah, I'm still kind of in that weird, wondering what I can get back to start doing pull-ups and push-ups and that sort of thing. I've been I picked up a chair this morning and my wife was like, "Oh my God, stop what you're doing! Don't!" I was like, "What?" She's like, "The doctor told you not to lift more than a pound." I was like, "He said that?" She was like, "Yeah, it's written on fucking all these papers, and your doctor said that." I was like, "Oh, I didn't hear that." She's like, "Oh, face palm." She's like, "Yeah, dude," because literally, I mean, it's two bones that are just held together by metal right now. I mean, there's just like two small chunks of collarbone.
Screws. Yeah.
So that was like a piece of bone dangling in there, and he was like, "Oh, that worked out pretty well. I was able to graft that in there." So I mean, if you can imagine, like, if you ever try to like fix like a fishing pole with duct tape or something, like you can imagine it's kind of precarious. So all that stuff's got to heal back together. Good
It'll
times.
happen.
Yeah, it's happening.
It is good times.
It's happening right now.
It's happening now. It's a slow process. But you're doing good though, dude. Like a week removed, getting off all the pain meds and stuff. That's a good fast track there. You want to do that too, because man, that stuff will jack you up, bro. I mean, we've talked about that.
Dude, it's interesting. I mean, there was a time in my life where I was more prone to what's the best way to put this? I was more prone to like become addicted to things, first of all, but I was seeking more escape in life.
Right.
Through alcohol, through pot, whatever. I mean, there was this phase in my life where I didn't have this sort of like, peace that allows me to just sit sober. You know,
right.
Like deal with whatever life comes with you. You know, you didn't have to escape. You didn't have to get away. You didn't have to feel like you were like, oh, so it's Friday after work. I got to, you know, get sloshed, you know, to escape all this stress and everything. And so I remember when I had my wisdom teeth out, you know, probably like 12 years ago or something, I was, you know, given a bunch of hydrocodones and thinking like, oh, okay, cool. Well, kind of like the pain's kind of gone, but I'll, you know, keep popping them just for the escape factor. And then you start to drink a little bit on top of that to enhance the buzz. And it's been a long time since I've been in that frame of mind. I've really kind of purged all that out of my system. But so like last week when I realized that, you know, when I finally got the x-ray and realized that it was broken here, and the doc was like, you know, do you want some pain meds? And I was like, man, I've been in severe pain for the last 7 days. Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, severe, like throbbing, nonstop pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I took some, and within like the first couple of pills, I feel the pull. I could feel the pull of the opioids. You know, I could feel the call of the wild, like, come home to me, Dylan. And I'm thinking like, man, you know, if I didn't have the self-awareness that I have, if I didn't have like the desire to be clear-headed and present like I do now, then it'd be so easy to just keep popping these and going off the deep end. And what I thought was more interesting, the most interesting facet of it was, okay, so I'm in like severe pain for days and days and days and days and days. I'm taking the ibuprofen, the Aleve, or the Tylenol, all that kind of crap. It's not doing anything. And so the doctor's like, cool, well, that's because your, you know, collarbones are completely separated. So do you want some pain pills? I'm like, yeah, I'll take the pain pills. So I take them, and within 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I just feel the pain melting away. And I'm like, wow, this is fucking outstanding. You know, for serious pain, this shit works. Like, this is great. You know, like, but what was interesting to me is what happened is like, you know, on the prescription bottle, it's, you know, take one of these every 4 to 6 hours or whatever it is. So there's that window where in 4 hours I start to be like, okay, I feel it coming back. In 5 hours, I'm like, okay, in 6 hours, the pain is back. You know, it very much works its way through your system on a pretty predictable timeline.
Right.
And so when it comes back, though, because of the fact that you've had that 6 hours of relief, when the pain comes back, it's so much more intense.
Amplified, right?
Amplified than it was when you were just sitting with the pain for, you know, 7, you know, just like continuously, when you just expected to be in pain. And so then you find yourself like, whoa, holy smackers, give me those pills like right now. And so yeah, it's a slippery slope. I mean, we've talked before in this podcast about the opioid crisis and sort of that slippery slope. But man, if you're out there, you're on this stuff, be careful with it. It's not healthy for you.
Well, and once you get to the point, okay, so I've been addicted to Vicodin and well documented in my book, and I've talked about it before on the show. And man, when you finally clear out of all that, and that happened to me in my late 20s, you know, and when you finally do get to that point where you just learn to deal with it, because that's where I'm at. I just learned to deal with pain, and it becomes a mental exercise, and you can forget about it. You know, you can get over it, and you may be a little grumpy or a little, you know, frustrated with some of the stuff you have to deal with, but then you just get busy with something, and it melts away in the same way, and then you become a more, you know, a stronger person, more in tune with your body. And then I had the same thing, man. I shattered my pelvis and just break it. I busted that thing to mess. And
well done.
Had to be on all kinds of, you know, morphine and crazy stuff like that, like super strong in the hospital. And man, I remember I just didn't like it because I'd been there before, and it was the whole, man, I don't like the way this makes you feel. And I can't believe there was a time when I did. Yeah. And that's a whole nother interesting topic to talk about right there, is that once you get clear and you're because I was I was years beyond that. I had probably been 8 years since I had gotten off the opioids when I shattered my pelvis and was put back on them again. And the difference in 8 years of time of being clean and being off of that kind of stuff, And yeah, I smoked a lot of weed and all that. That's a totally different vibe, though, man. Smoking a bowl or hitting a joint is a totally different vibe than popping some Oxycontins and or Vicodin or whatever, morphine. It's a totally different thing. And man, I remember that. I remember I didn't like the way it made me feel, but I remember exactly what you're talking about too. The pain would start to come back, and it's intense, man.
The contrast, yeah.
And so I would want more. I'd be like telling my wife, I need this medication. She'd be like, you got to get off of this. You can't just keep doing it, or you'll just keep doing it forever. And she was right, and eventually I got off the stuff, and the pain came back, and at first it was fucking horrible, and now, man, like I almost have to sit and we've laughed about that. You've been like, yeah, how you feeling? I'm like, I'm good, man. And then sometimes I actually have to think about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, like this thing doesn't feel good, but I deal with it so much that I don't think about that it doesn't feel good because I'm mentally beyond that, right? And to me, that's that whole balance of, we've talked about it before. I mean, that's the thing that the shaman does. That's the thing that's true self-actualization. That's balancing of the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the pain and the bliss, right? And man, most of the time, it's building character all the time, and it's something that I don't think about, and I just push through. And that's when you're freaking grown up, when you can push through the pain and do your thing anyway. I guess.
Grown up. Yeah, I don't think that term really captures it all. I mean, there's this whole thing called adulting now where grown-ups are trying to figure out how to do laundry and cook macaroni and cheese, but that's another conversation. I found myself the other day, I had the surgery on Friday, and then so all day Friday I was in this deep blur because, the anesthesia and stuff. But Saturday it was pretty nice to have some Percocets pumping through my veins. Sunday I took one, and then it just made me really spaced out, so I backed off. And I realized on Sunday I was like, if I don't lay off of this stuff now and let the pain sink in, I'm missing this opportunity to know what it feels like, right? Because it's maybe that sounds demented or twisted, but like to sit with your body and really like place your mind inside the areas of your body that are hurting and feel like, okay, I can feel down into the bone. I can feel where the metal is. I can feel where the muscle has been pulled apart. I can feel where the skin has been sliced. And then I can feel the damage around. Like, that's pretty powerful. Like I learned a long time ago in Qigong, in certain Qigong meditations, where you actually sit with your eyes closed and you're doing certain meditations and you're concentrating on feeling your organs, one organ at a time, whether it's your spleen or your kidneys or whatever, your liver. But like to be able to develop the, like the spatial awareness, the sense of acute feeling inside your body, it's really powerful. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I really don't want to miss out on all of this. I want to know what it feels like to like be put back together from this. Powerful stuff, man.
Well, for sure. And then that's the only way you're going to know when you're better, right? Because you know what it was like when you were busted. So, and that, yet again, that spurs another thought for me right now about where you're at in life. So many people only want the highs. Some want the high life, like the champagne of beers and all that. But that's not reality, dude. You got to have the peaks and valleys, right? You got to have the balance of all that. But, you try not to let your valleys get too deep and your peaks get too high, and find that balance of reward and effort, right? So without putting in the effort, the rewards aren't going to feel as great. And it's why all these people over and over again, they win the lottery and they're broke, and you're like, how did you win $50 million 6 years ago and you're broke? And it's because they didn't earn it, man. They didn't put the toil in to receive the reward, and so it was just like this, hitting the lotto, and it was like it didn't mean anything. It was funny money. I
can't wait till I'm able to do a pull up again, man. I'm so looking forward to it. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
It will be awesome.
Do a proper push-up, be like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Finally, back at it. But the flip side of that, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice, you know, just having like all the pressure taken off. You know, like, okay, there's you're limited in your range of what you can do, you know, so all right, well, let's focus on one thing, you know, let's not try to cram it all in. So it's kind of, I don't know, man. I'm grateful. I'm also grateful to, I hate to, I don't want to bring this up, talk about it too much, but like, you know, I lived in Costa Rica. You know how the medical system works in Costa Rica. There's like public care, which is, you know, you could call it socialized medicine, whatever. It's the caja. It's, you know, everybody pays into it and anybody can go to the doctor and get treated for free. But like when my friend's kid broke his arm and had this, you know, freaking bone sticking halfway out of his arm, like he literally would have had to wait in a waiting room 24 hours a day in a room, and it's sitting in a chair in the order of like first come first serve, in a chair waiting for like surgeons to come. He would have literally had to sit in a chair in this room 24 hours a day for probably 6, 7, 8, 9 days in order to get the operation.
You get what you don't pay for, right?
Like, you know, and so then there's the private care in Costa Rica where you can pay. It's, you know, you consider like a la carte. You know, you need this procedure, you pay for it. And what I found was that stuff was probably cheaper than it is in the United States, but the quality of it was a lot lower than it is in the United States. My point is that with the crappy insurance that we have, and with all of this stuff going on, it's going to cost me a good bit of money. But man, like all the doctors I've seen, all the places I've been, they're amazing, dude. Like the centers I've been to for X-rays, like the orthopedic clinics I've been to, they're just fucking amazing. Like super fast, extremely knowledgeable, really helpful. Excellent surgeons. At the hospital, there's so many people doing this or that. You know, like so many people involved in caring for me in that, you know, like 6-hour period of time that I was there at the hospital. So just, well done, American medical care, for whatever it's worth. It's pretty awesome, really.
Well, and see, your attitude has changed, right? So many people are judgmental because they don't have those outside experiences like you and I have had, and that's sad. It makes people less appreciative.
Right.
It's kind of like the thing I was just talking about with winning the lottery. You know, you don't realize how good you have it until you don't have it. And then you get it again, and you're like, "Oh, this is pretty freaking awesome," you know. And so many people don't realize that.
I'm pretty sure that, you know, talking to the friends I know that are Canadian and stuff, that I would have had to wait some number of weeks before getting the surgery, right? Like I would have had to, which is what I was doing. I was basically hobbling around for 2 weeks with a totally broken collarbone, and I would have had to have wait like some number of weeks more to like get this surgery scheduled and stuff, and probably would have had to re-break it at that time. That's, you know, that's what my friends have told me.
Right.
You know, which just does not sound like a whole lot of fun. So for
Right.
whatever it's worth, you know, man, it may be expensive, but it's pretty awesome care. What are we even talking about today? I can't lie, man. I'm kind of like in this zone of coming out of this. Like I've been bedridden and really focused on, you know what I've been doing, man, to keep myself together? I've been watching stand-up comedy.
We've been talking about that. Comedy is the great healer.
You got to keep your spirits up. But
Always.
I stumbled across Jim Gaffigan, who is
dude, that's my son's favorite.
yeah, which is great because like the kids were hanging out with me over the weekend. I was like, oh, let's see what Jim Gaffigan's about. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this dude. And he's like proclaimed king of clean comedy. So that was good, man. You know, seeing your 6-year-old laugh his nuts off at
yeah, King Baby. That's a great one right there.
Good stuff, man. So
it is good stuff, and it lifts your spirits. You know, comedy is amazing. It's something that Aaron and I watch all the time. Almost every weekend, I'm looking for some comedy special over some freaking ridiculous violent movie for sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, a big part of the downtime that you have right now too is getting into your body and getting into meditation and taking the time to think about the decisions you're making as far as your food goes and hydration, which you know you have no issue with that as you're drinking your 3 different beverages that were here on the show. So but yeah, man, I think a lot of people get in this thing where they feel sorry for themselves when they're injured, or they you know, get depressed or whatever, which is natural. Believe me, I've been there. But at the same time, that's not the road to recovery. depression and feeling sorry for yourself, it's never going to make you better. It's not going to make you feel better. It's not a healing process. So no, I mean, dude, who cares what this show's about? It's about reality, and we live it every day. And so we're just sharing our experiences with people. And I can tell it's on your mind because you keep coming back to this thing with your collarbone and talking about it. But that's therapeutic too, right there. Like, it's a great example to people to not hold on to everything and keep it all inside and keep it to yourself. You're not in this thing alone,
Yeah, I'm just kind of coasting through it right now. The weather was kind of like dreary over the weekend, and which was kind of just right for popping pain meds all weekend long. And today I woke up and I was like, I feel like out of the cloud of pain meds, and then metaphorically speaking, the clouds lifted here. It's this beautiful sunny day, and I'm like, this is definitely on the road to recovery. But you could see that in people's comments. Like I put up one of my x-rays on Facebook last week, and everybody's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm so sorry, and it really is, it does pay to just be like, yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it. I actually enjoying it. So, I can't tell you the last time I've just hung out in bed for 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of nice. Hate to admit.
And that'll get, and there's a time for that, and then that gets old too, and there's a time for the recovery and the push forward. So my favorite Facebook comment though was your mom, who doesn't realize that her name, and was like, oh, that's quite a break there.
Signed your mom.
This is mom. And you're like, oh, I didn't know by your first and last name that I share with you. So anyway, that was hilarious. It made me laugh.
If you think about it, man, it's just really fucking weird how, my mom was born in 1950. She remembers when TVs came out, and right. Here we are, like, we're already into the decline of Facebook era, right? So I'm like in the blogging world. I'm in the alt news, whatever you want to call it, world. And I got in at a time where, like Facebook was on its way up. We were able to get a lot of traction and a lot of reach a lot of people through Facebook. And then over the last 3-4 years, they've just been clamping down the reach, clamping it down. And now literally they're, everybody that I know, people that have invested so much money in developing these Facebook pages to develop an audience to reach, they don't make people sign up. People voluntarily sign up to follow a page that they like. And then Facebook's just cut all of that off. And so maybe for a select few people in the older generation, they may never have to learn how to work Facebook. Maybe Facebook will just die off here in the next few years, and we can move on to something else. That'll be nice.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because Facebook to me it's a corporate debacle on how they outsmarted themselves, right? They had this extreme growth, and everything was, they thought, always going to be on the, going up. And we've talked about this before, it's a stock market term that trees don't grow to the sky, and everything has a ceiling. Everything has a top off point. And I maybe when some of these companies finally fall, people, shareholders, investors are going to realize it's not sustainable. The constant growth is not sustainable. You can't always be more profitable and more profitable and more and when is it enough? When is enough enough? I mean, I'm not the first person to say this. It's absolutely true. Like, these guys, man, at the top, they have so many billions upon billions of dollars, right? And the things that they could do to branch out. Like, if you want to keep making more money, have subsidiaries of Facebook and other things that you're doing. Not just, and I'm not talking about going out and buying Instagram. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting into totally different businesses and totally different ways of thinking and helping your community that built you, right? Like, your community is the reason that you are where you are. The billions of people that are on Facebook got you there, and then you're cutting those people off at the legs, dude. Like, it's like, like for you personally, they're asking you to take a bath on your business that you built by helping them build theirs. And so anyway, it's a really funny thing. And maybe when more of these, fly by night billionaires, which is kind of funny, Because you wouldn't think, I mean, think about the industrial age and how long it took, the Fords of the world and, the Carnegies and all that to build the wealth that they accumulated. And their wealth was never in the B with the billions. Well, Ford, because they're still going. But, Carnegie was never a billionaire. He was a millionaire. But at the time when he was a millionaire, it was like being a billionaire today. But it took him years. It didn't happen in, man, what is Facebook, like 10 years old? Something like that?
Yeah. 15 maybe at the most, 12.
And the guy's worth like, I don't know, $50 billion or some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So
most of that's like in stock. I mean, if the company just takes a shit, I mean, his wealth goes down too. But yeah, that's like the main delusion of capitalism. And I'm all for it. I think like, trade between people, people should work out their own agreements and arrangements and stuff and, do deals that work to their advantage. But there is that sort of embedded delusion in the capitalism that we have now that there is no ceiling, that everything has to grow continuously.
Right. Constant growth.
So, I mean, you see that, like I was talking about the medical system is not all that bad. But I mean, that's what's really fucked it up is that, like everybody's constantly got to squeeze more profit out of everything that we have going. So, and well, we're going to take the last few minutes to bitch about capitalism. So the complain
well, it
about
is
stuff.
weird. Think about this. Think about how humans, right, are a metaphor. Like our culture and our bodies even are a metaphor for the things that are happening in our world. And the thing we're talking about with the constant growth, right? I want you to think about the problem that we have. And it's not just in the United States. It's worldwide with obesity, right? And you want to talk about a constant growth system. Obesity is something that's probably one of the fastest growing diseases, and it's constant growth of the physical body way beyond the realms of where it's supposed to go. And this is what we're trying to do with business. This is what we're trying to do with economies. This is what we're trying to do. And then here we replicate that with physical bodies with people that are, I remember when I was a kid, man, if somebody was like 250 pounds, 300 pounds, you were like, whoa, that person's gigantic.
Yeah.
Man, people are 480 pounds, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, and I'm like, this is like out of control. This is like way beyond the realm of what you're supposed to be. And it's funny, what emptiness, what void, what thing are people trying to fill with these food products that they're putting in their body? And I do mean products because it's not real food, and it's empty, right? It's an empty feeling. It's an empty food product that they're putting in their body. There's a lack of nutrition there, which is why, it's going to expand your waistline and your literal footprint, but it's not going to nourish your body and give you what you need. And so then you just dive into more. And it's the same thing with the economy. It's like there's no substance there. It's just this, they want constant growth so that they can have more money to buy more shit. That's shit, and it's a really funny metaphor and how we literally embody the things that are happening in our world. So
but even,
it's really interesting.
But even that too, I mean, there's sort of like an element of herd mentality going on in there. I mean, you're not going to go to Golden Corral and be the guy that, like, I'll just have the side salad. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'm not gonna go to Golden Corral, period. So
right, but there's a certain interplay of herd mentality of like, oh, okay, well, that guy's 480 pounds. Well, it's kind of okay if I don't watch my weight as well. It's like things are more socially acceptable, so things are trending in that direction, and so ultimately it's up to the individual to pull it all back in and self-regulate and take care of themselves and
personal pride
and not let other people convince them to push people off of buildings.
Tie it all together there.
Full circle. Yeah, interesting though, the push though. I see that, like, there's a lot of talk about like police and like what's going on with the police and there's a lot of authoritarian people that get inside an authoritarian system and really thrive, and just, they don't want to have responsibility. They just want to fucking be evil, Sucks. It sucks, man. I can't do anything about it, but that's what it is.
Even that's all cyclical too, right? Like the news cycle is predictable almost. Like, we got to talk about the police, and then we have to have some random other thing that happens, and then we got gun violence, and don't
forget to investigate. You have to investigate everything.
Yeah, lots of investigations.
Lots of investigations.
Yeah.
Well, man, I don't know, man. To be honest with you, we just did an hour, and it's one of the weirdest podcasts I've done so far. I think it might be because I'm coming down from, having surgery the other day, but I don't even know where that conversation went. But we'll just play it back and see where it went. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Jeff, you got anything else you want to say to take us on?
Well, as always, let me pimp our things out to the trolls out there. No, I'm just kidding. You can find us.
You're a stoner.
Anyway, Dylan and I were joking earlier before the show about that we should do a YouTube comments and show that would be quite funny and hilarious for all y'all to hear the awesome comments that we get. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are really hilarious. And so we always get a good laugh at it. So please, keep your comments rolling in. Please subscribe or like our channel so you get click the bell so that you know when our new shows are out on YouTube and stuff like that. And, of course, you can find Dylan at wakingtimes.com. You can hook up with me at journeytoinnersage.com. And, we're also on Facebook as well. Yeah,
check out Jeff's book, his award-winning book. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Cosmic Wizard, A Journey from Outer Rage to Inner Sage. A pretty excellent book. I don't pimp it enough, but just pimped it now, so it's been pimped. And, thank you for tuning in, and we will get our heads screwed back on to do this again next week. Peace.
Ciao.
You've been listening to Redesigning Reality with Jeff Anthony and Dylan Charles.
Tukaboya mokabodi.